In this video, we're going to dive into part 2 of a 2-part series on building muscle without gaining weight. And by the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to achieve just that. Now, before you watch this video, make sure you check out part 1 of this series so that you can not only understand the physiological processes at play, but also help you decide if building muscle without gaining weight, which we'll refer to as body recomp moving forward, is actually worth your time and effort, because it's not exactly for everyone. Really important not to miss that. If you already watched part 1, then first, thank you for watching, and let's get right to the meaty muscle of it. Hi, I'm PictureFit. I make content on all things health and fitness to help you with your goals and gains. I'm going to divide the advice in this video into 3 sections. First on training, second on nutrition, which is the big one, and third on everything else and with some extra tips. I'll also break down training and nutrition to specific steps to make it easier to follow. Let's get right to it with the first step of training, and that is simply to fit training into your schedule. Clearly, none of the training will work if there's no place to put it in your schedule. And I understand that scheduling exercise is tough, but I would recommend you start thinking of your exercise as a priority, much like your work and family time. Because after all, your health and fitness should be. Preferably, you want to target each of your muscle groups 2 to 3 times a week, and for that, it's best to have at least 3 days of training per week in your schedule. Make some room for training if you haven't already. Step 2 is to train like you're bulking. Training on a recomp isn't actually different from the usual muscle-focused programs. You should be doing plenty of compound exercises like barbell squats, pull-ups, and bench presses with some accessory exercises like bicep curls and knee extensions. Again, make sure you're training all of your muscles at least twice. More importantly, though, you need to focus on progressive overload, or the gradual progression of training parameters. Training parameters can be many things, like the number of reps and sets you do, the weight you lift, the amount of exercises you do, and among many others. For beginners, you probably don't want to tinker with parameters until you get better at performing your exercises first. Stick to a more conventional 3 to 4 sets of 8 to 12 reps using a comfortable weight until you feel more acclimated with your exercises. For everyone else, a simple and effective way to quantify progressive overload is using something called volume, which is the product of reps times sets times the weight you lift for any given exercise. The goal is to increase volume and other parameters over time to consistently drive sufficient muscle stimuli. Ultimately, you should never be doing the same exercises with the same parameters all the time. Step 3 and the final step of training is to make sure you train close to failure. Training close to failure means pushing your exercises close to your physical limits, a huge factor for muscle growth. A popular way to subjectively quantify this is with RIR, or reps in reserve. RIR tracks the amount of extra reps you could have done for a set before reaching failure. An RIR of 0 means you actually reached failure for the set, and anything more is the amount of reps you held off from failure, or reps left in reserve. You want to make sure the weight you put on the bar is heavy enough to reach close to failure for the number of reps you plan to do, and that means reaching an RIR between 1 and 3. Occasionally, you do want to go all the way to failure, particularly for the last sets of your exercises, but don't make a habit out of it since training to failure can be very taxing to the body. In other words, be smart and train smart. So that's 3 steps for training. First, schedule in your training at least 3 times a week. Second, train like you're bulking or doing any other muscle-based training. And 3, train close to failure. Now with training behind us, let's get to the fun part, nutrition. As we discussed in the first video, body recomp requires energy balance, and you can only do so by first figuring out your energy expenditure, or the calories you burn. So for step 1, we're going to find a rough daily estimate of your energy expenditure by inputting some information into the energy calculator linked in the description. Based on your inputs, the calculator will spit out a rough figure of your daily estimated maintenance calories. We're going to take that number and then refine it in step 2. This is where some meticulous planning begins. First, get acquainted with one of the many food tracking apps out there so that you can measure the calories of everything you eat. Make sure you measure everything. Once you got that down, on the day you start training regularly, you'll also start eating at the estimated maintenance calories you got from the calculator for 2 weeks. For example, if I calculated a maintenance of 2,000 calories, my goal would be to eat 2,000 calories daily for 14 days. Again, make sure you measure everything. Weigh yourself in the morning each day, or at minimum the first and final days. If your weight remains remains similar from start to finish, then your rough maintenance figure is likely accurate enough, but you might want to throw in another week of testing just to make sure. However, if the weight numbers are quite different, like a pound or more, then you have to test for another week. This will help rule out natural weight fluctuations caused by things like water weight or the natural process of the female sex. If your weight continues to trend in one direction, then your maintenance figure needs adjustment. Depending on the direction of the scale, try increasing or decreasing your calorie intake by 1 to 200 and test for another week or until things balance out. Now, the goal isn't necessarily to dial down your exact maintenance calories, but get close enough to maintain a reasonable weight range over time. In the long run, if you're staying within 1 to 5 pounds of your goal weight, then you should be good to go. Also, you'll learn a lot about your food during this process. Eventually, you'll learn so much that you won't even need to use your food tracking apps anymore. Now, once your maintenance estimate is more refined, in step 3, and to no surprise to those following this channel, you need to get your protein. Protein and muscle go hand in hand, and it's really important we get enough. My recommendation is to shoot for about 1.6 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight per day, or about 0.8 grams per pound. A bit more or less is okay, but the closer you get to this figure, the better. And finally, step 4, the biggest step of nutrition, is to plan out your actual intake. Technically, we can take our refined maintenance calories and just use that every single day, but I wouldn't recommend that. In my opinion, it's better to make small adjustments depending on the day. To explain why, let me first walk you through what my weekly calorie breakdown would look like during a recomp. On days 1 through 5, or Monday through Friday, each day I'll aim for eating 200 calories above my estimated maintenance. On days 6 and 7, or Saturday and Sunday, each day I'll aim for eating 500 calories below my maintenance. Days 1 through 5 are my training days, and days 6 and 7 are my off days. As you can see, I have more calories, 1,000 in total, on my training days, and then I balance that out by eating 1,000 total calories fewer on my off days. Essentially, my goal is to ensure that I have sufficient nutrients at times of elevated muscle protein synthesis, the physiological process driving muscle growth. And muscle protein synthesis is at its highest immediately following exercise. It also remains slightly elevated long after, as much as 48 hours later before returning to baseline. For that reason, it's important that we keep our protein intake high, regardless of whether we're eating more or less for any given day. But specifically for our training days, giving ourselves a bit of cushion with a calorie surplus ensures that we do provide sufficient nutrients when our muscles need it most, which is something we can't guarantee if we ate just maintenance each day. In essence, we're still performing the cut bulk cycle we discussed in part 1, but at much smaller scales. Based on your training schedule, you might want to do the same, more on your training days and less on your off days. It doesn't have to be like mine. You can have higher or lower surpluses, vary them on a day-to-day basis, or even have surpluses on your off days. I do recommend, however, to keep surpluses within a reasonable range. Larger surpluses consequently means larger deficits. If your deficit days are reaching 1,000 calories or more, then that's a sign to pull your surpluses back a bit. That said, as long as your total calorie allocation over time remains close to maintenance, you can get pretty creative with this strategy. Give it a shot. So to recap, first, calculate a rough maintenance estimate. Second, take that estimate and refine it. Third, get your protein. And finally, fourth, plan out your calorie intakes. And that's training and nutrition. To wrap things up, let's talk tips and some basic things to do. First, the obvious one, make sure you get enough sleep. Recovery is absolutely essential in any case, body recomp no exception. Same for scheduling in recovery days and deloads. Allow enough recovery time for your training, both short and long term, especially when your training starts to get intense. Also, continue to occasionally weigh yourself. Your maintenance calories are always changing, and more so with your changing body composition and or changes to your training. Make the proper adjustments whenever you start drifting from your weight range. Getting protein powder supplements can also be a good idea, especially if you have trouble reaching your protein goals. I also definitely recommend adding some cardio. Cardio increases your calorie expenditure, which is especially helpful if you're struggling with your deficits. Cardio also has that whole heart health whatever going for it. This next tip is a big one, and that is to be patient and self-forgiving. As great as it is to stay the same weight while building muscle, the process can feel very slow. But remember, this is a long and patient rewarding process, and the ultimate goal is building a lifestyle rather than just being on another diet. It's okay to feel overwhelmed at times, so be easy on yourself. Mistakes will happen. Mistakes will happen along the way. Just acknowledge it, learn from it, and keep moving forward. And the final tip, if you still need a bit extra help, then come join the PictureFit Discord community. At 30,000 members strong and counting, a lot of our community members actually tried body recomp themselves with good success. Don't be afraid to reach out with your questions, like actually picking a program that works for you, because, we're more than willing to help. Link is down below. And that's it. Congrats! You made it to the end. I really do hope this video helps you out. Before you leave, just remember again to be patient, be forgiving, be diligent, and most of all, be subscribing. Ha! Gotcha. No, but really, subscribe for more. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a patient thumbs up and share it with your diligently loving friends. As always, thank you for watching, and don't forget to get your protein. Same amount every day.